Imagine you're sitting alone in your room after a long, difficult day. Someone said something that hurt you deeply. It keeps playing in your mind like a broken record. You want peace, but your heart feels heavy. You try to distract yourself, but nothing works. Now ask yourself, why does one simple sentence from someone have so much power over you? Why does your mood swing so easily with other people's actions or words? Why do some emotions stay with us for years, while others vanish in minutes? What if there was a way to face every emotion, anger, sadness, jealousy, even happiness, with calm understanding instead of being pushed around by them? What if you could watch your emotions like clouds in the sky, appearing and passing, without losing your peace? Let's take a simple example. Imagine you're stuck in traffic. You feel irritated, helpless, even angry. But if you pause for a moment and look within, you'll see it's not the traffic. It's your reaction. That reaction is shaped by your mind, your thoughts, your expectations. Buddhism teaches us that mastering our emotions starts with mastering how we see things. Welcome to Wisdom Woven, a channel made to guide you gently toward emotional peace using the timeless truths of Buddhism. If you're seeking calm in the middle of life's chaos, you're in the right place. There are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% subscribed. So please, if this message speaks to you, take a moment to comment your thoughts, share this with someone you care about, and subscribe to our channel. Your one click can help spread peace to many hearts. Buddhism does not tell you to run away from your emotions. It tells you to look at them closely. It teaches that emotions are not enemies. They are messengers. They show you what you cling to, what you fear, what you love. By seeing clearly, you begin to free yourself from their grip. In Buddhism, the root of emotional pain lies in attachment. We expect people to behave a certain way, life to unfold a certain way, and when it doesn't, we suffer. But life is not fixed. Everything changes. The Buddha taught that when you truly understand impermanence, you stop holding on so tightly, and your emotions begin to soften. This series will gently take you on a journey through Buddhist ideas and practices that can help you deal with emotions differently. You will learn how to pause before reacting, how to create space between feeling and action, how to let go of what does not serve your peace. If you've spent years being controlled by emotions, now is the time to learn another way. Stay with us. Your path to emotional freedom is just beginning. The root of all suffering, understanding emotional attachment. When you look closely at your emotions, you might realize that most of them are tied to something you care about deeply. It could be a person, a goal, or even an idea of how life should be. But have you ever wondered, why do these things have such a strong hold over us? Why do we feel pain when they're threatened or taken away? Why is it so hard to let go? Buddhism teaches that the root of all suffering lies in attachment. This means that the pain we feel comes from our clinginess, our inability to let go of what we hold dear. We attach ourselves to things, people, or even ideas, believing that they define us or give us meaning. But life, as we know, is unpredictable. People change, circumstances shift, and when we base our happiness on these things, we set ourselves up for disappointment. Take a moment and think of something you hold dear. It could be your job, a relationship, or even a material possession. Now, imagine that it's taken away. How would you feel? Do you think it would change who you are? Would you still be whole? Or would something deep inside of you feel lost? This is the nature of attachment. We think that by holding tightly to something, we can secure our happiness. But in truth, the more tightly we hold on, the more vulnerable we become. The Buddha saw this truth clearly. He understood that attachment causes suffering because we cannot control everything in life. The more we try to control, the more we suffer when life does not meet our expectations. To illustrate this, let's consider a simple example. Imagine you are holding a beautiful flower in your hand. It's fresh, vibrant, and brings you joy. But, as with all things, this flower will eventually wilt. If you try to hold on to it forever, you might only end up with broken petals and disappointment. The more you cling to it, the more you prevent yourself from experiencing the beauty of a moment. If, instead, you recognize that the flower will fade, you can appreciate its beauty in the present without fear of losing it. This is how emotions work too. We can enjoy feelings like love, joy, or even success without fearing their end. When we let go of our attachment to the outcome, we can experience emotions more freely, without the burden of anxiety or disappointment. Buddhism doesn't ask us to stop caring about things. It doesn't say we should withdraw from life or from people. On the contrary, it teaches us to love and live fully, but without attachment. The difference is subtle but powerful. When you love without attachment, you love with the understanding that nothing is permanent. You enjoy the moment without holding on to it. You give yourself the freedom to experience love without expecting it to last forever. So, how we start letting go of attachment? The first step is to recognize it. The next time you feel upset or disturbed by something, ask yourself, what am I attached to right now? It could be a person's approval, a particular outcome, or even the way you believe things should go. Recognizing this attachment is the key to freeing yourself from it. Once you identify the attachment, the next step is to accept impermanence. Nothing in this world lasts forever. People change, situations change, and even our own emotions change. By understanding that nothing is permanent, you begin to loosen the grip attachment has on you. But here's the tricky part. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop needing things to be a certain way in order to be happy. When you stop depending on the world to give you security, you start to find peace within yourself. Think of a tree standing in the wind. It doesn't fight against the gusts. It bends and sways, knowing that the wind will pass. Similarly, when we stop fighting against the flow of life, we become more adaptable. We stop clinging to things that cause us pain and open ourselves to the beauty of the present moment. The Buddhist teachings are not about denying emotions. They are about learning to respond to them in a healthy way. It's about recognizing that emotions, like everything else in life, are temporary. They come and go. We don't need to hold on to them. If we can learn to observe our emotions without attaching ourselves to them, we begin to break free from the cycle of suffering. This doesn't mean you won't feel pain or sadness. You will. But instead of letting those feelings take over, you learn to sit with them. You feel them, acknowledge them, and let them pass. Just like waves crashing against the shore, emotions rise and fall. The more you practice observing them without attachment, the less power they have over you. It's a gradual process. You don't have to be perfect. The goal is not to suppress emotions, but to become aware of how your attachments influence them. With time, you will begin to notice a shift. You'll feel less controlled by your emotions and more able to respond to them in a balanced way. The more you practice letting go of attachments, the more you'll discover that true peace doesn't come from holding on to people or things. It comes from within. Peace is found in the space between thoughts, in the silence between emotions. It's a quiet strength that grows from understanding the impermanent nature of life. Every time you let go of an attachment, you make room for something new. This is not just about letting go of material possessions or people. It's about letting go of old beliefs, habits, and fears that hold you back from living freely. When you let go of the need to control your emotions or the outcome of situations, you begin to experience true emotional freedom. Remember, the key to mastering your emotions lies not in fighting them, but in letting them flow without resistance. By understanding attachment and impermanence, you free yourself from the suffering that comes from clinging to what you cannot control. This is the wisdom the Buddha shared. It's a simple yet profound truth. The more we let go, the more we gain. When we stop holding on to the fleeting moments, we can experience life with greater clarity and joy. This is the path to emotional peace. The power of observation. Mindfulness as emotional medicine. in the stillness of a moment, something beautiful happens. You begin to notice your breath. You hear the sound of your thoughts, the way your heart beats, the way your body feels. This simple act of observing changes everything. Most of the time, our emotions sweep over us like waves in an ocean. We are tossed and turned, carried away by the currents of anger, fear, frustration, and even joy. We don't pause to see how the emotions arise, where they come from, or where they go. We simply react. But what if you could stop being carried by these waves and instead just observe them? What if you could be like a still pond where every ripple, every feeling came and went without disturbing your peace? The Buddha taught that our suffering doesn't come from the world around us, but from how we react to it. Emotions, at their core, are not good or bad. They are just energy. They rise, they fall, and they leave. It's our attachment to them that causes trouble. We cling to anger because it feels powerful. We hold on to sadness because we think it defines us. We grasp onto joy because we fear will fade. But in all of this, we forget one thing. The emotion itself is not the problem. The problem is our attachment to it. This is where the practice of mindfulness comes in. Mindfulness is the act of observing without judgment. It's a way of being aware without becoming overwhelmed. You don't have to push your emotions away or force yourself to feel a certain way. Instead, you simply observe them, and in doing so, you create space. In that space, there is peace. Imagine sitting quietly, and your mind begins to fill with thoughts. Some thoughts are pleasant, perhaps about something you enjoyed today. Others are less so, maybe something that upset you, or something you fear. Instead of getting lost in these thoughts, mindfulness invites you to simply notice them. Here's a thought, you say to yourself. It's just a thought. It's not who I am. You may start to notice that your emotions, too, are like this. They arise and pass, like clouds in the sky. Some are dark, some are light, but none of them stay forever. The key is not to try to hold on to them, but to let them come and go, just as naturally as the air you breathe. This practice of observing emotions can be incredibly powerful. It allows you to detach from the story your mind creates. When you're lost in a feeling, your mind often attaches a story to it. I'm angry because of what they said. I'm sad because of what happened. This story keeps the emotion alive. But when you observe without judgment, you realize the emotion is just a feeling. It is not you. It does not define you. Through mindfulness, you begin to notice the gap between your emotions and your reactions. You realize that you have the power to choose how to respond. You are not a puppet to your emotions. You are the observer, and in that observation, you hold the power of choice. This is where Buddhism teaches a profound truth. You are not your emotions. You're not your thoughts. You're the one who is aware of them. And once you realize this, you begin to understand that you don't have to be controlled by them. You don't have to react impulsively. You can take a step back, breathe, and decide how to act rather than react. Mindfulness teaches us that everything is temporary. Our emotions come and go, and so do our thoughts. The trick is to watch them without becoming attached to them. Just as a cloud moves across the sky, so too do your feelings. When you understand this, you begin to experience freedom. You no longer need to be caught in the endless cycle of emotional reactions. Instead, you learn to simply watch, and in doing so, you find peace. There's a powerful meditation technique that can help with this. It's called the body scan. You simply sit quietly and begin to focus on each part of your body, from your toes to your head. As you do this, you may begin to notice sensations in your body. Tension, warmth, cold, tightness, or ease. These sensations are often linked to your emotions. By paying attention to them, you can start to see how your body responds to your emotions. For example, when you feel anxiety, you might notice tightness in your chest. When you feel anger, you might notice heat rising in your face. By observing these sensations without judgment, You start to separate the feeling from the story you tell yourself about it. You realize that the feeling is just a physical sensation. It doesn't need to control you. The more you practice mindfulness, the more you begin to understand that your emotions are not as powerful as they seem. They're just temporary experiences that arise in the mind and body. When you can observe them with detachment, they lose their grip on you. Buddhism offers a simple but profound teaching on this. It is called not clinging. When we cling to our emotions, we make them stronger. We hold on to the anger, the sadness, the fear, and the joy. But when we stop clinging, when we allow ourselves to feel without holding on, the emotions naturally pass. They don't control us. We control how we respond to them. This is not about suppressing your emotions or pretending they don't exist. It's about giving them the space to be without becoming lost in them. It's about observing without judgment. It's about creating a peaceful distance between you and the emotions that once ruled your life. Through mindfulness, you learn that emotions are not something to be feared or avoided. They're simply a part of being human. The key is to stop fighting them and start observing them. As you do, you will discover that they have less power over you. You begin to realize that you are not your emotions. You are the one who observes them. In the practice of mindfulness, we begin to find the middle way. This is the path of balance. We neither cling to our emotions nor push them away. We simply let them be. And in doing so, we find the peace we've been searching for all along. So, the next time you find yourself overwhelmed by an emotion, pause for a moment. Take a breath. Observe the feeling without judgment. Don't try to change it. Just notice it. Let it rise and fall like waves in the ocean. And in that moment, you will discover the power of mindfulness and the freedom it brings. Impermanence, the secret to emotional freedom. Imagine waking up every morning with the understanding that nothing, absolutely nothing, is permanent. The day will pass. Your thoughts will change. Even the people you love and the feelings you carry will all be in a constant state of flow. This is the heart of Buddhism's wisdom, impermanence. In our lives, we tend to hold on to things, emotions, situations, relationships, achievements, thinking that they should stay forever. But nothing does. Everything changes. The world is in constant motion. When we resist change, when we try to control what is not ours to control, we suffer. We feel anxiety, fear, and frustration. We try to hold on to moments, only to watch them slip away like sand through our fingers. But the moment we understand impermanence, everything changes. We can start to see our emotions, whether it's joy or sadness, anger or peace, as fleeting clouds in the sky. They come, they stay for a while, and they pass. We no longer have to identify with them or let them control us. We can simply let them be. Think about a moment in your life when you were deeply hurt by someone. The pain seemed unbearable. You carried it for days, weeks, maybe even years. But then, one day, you realized the pain wasn't as sharp anymore. It faded. Time passed. Things changed. You moved on. This is the power of impermanence in action. No matter how intense our emotions feel in the moment, they are not permanent. They don't define us. They are temporary visitors in our hearts. Buddhism teaches us to embrace this truth of impermanence. It is not something to fear. It is a way to set ourselves free. When we accept that everything changes, we no longer grasp at things desperately. We no longer need to make everything last forever. We could appreciate the beauty of the present moment, knowing it won't last. But that's what makes it precious. Think of a beautiful sunset. As you watch the colors shift and the light fade, you feel awe. You know it won't last, and that's exactly why it's so beautiful. If the sunset stayed the same every day, it would lose its magic. Impermanence is not something to fight against. It is something to embrace. When we accept impermanence in our emotions, we allow ourselves to experience life with less attachment. We are not overwhelmed by the highs and lows of our emotional roller coaster. Instead, We can watch them come and go with peaceful awareness. A moment of joy is a moment to enjoy, not something to cling to. A moment of sadness is a moment to feel, not something to dwell on. By understanding that emotions are like the weather, we can choose not to let them define our inner state. For example, you might be going through a difficult time. Maybe you've lost something important, whether it's a job, a relationship, or even a loved one. In those moments, it's easy to feel like your whole world is falling apart. You might feel overwhelmed by grief or frustration. But remember, everything is temporary. The pain, the sadness, the confusion, these will all pass. It's not about denying your feelings. It's about recognizing that they are temporary and they don't have to control you. Buddhism invites us to sit with our emotions, without judgment, without resistance. If you're sad, be sad. If you're angry, feel your anger. But don't hold on to it. Don't make it your identity. Let it pass like a wave crashing on shore. The more you hold on, the more you suffer. The more you let go, the more you find peace. When we understand impermanence, we can also begin to practice letting go of our expectations. Think about how many times in life we are disappointed because something didn't go the way we imagined. We expect things to stay the same, to be perfect, but that's not how life works. Nothing stays the same. Everything changes. This doesn't mean we stop caring or trying. It doesn't mean we give up. It means we stop expecting everything to be perfect. We stop holding on to outcomes. We do our best, but we learn to accept whatever happens. Whether we win or lose, whether we're happy or sad, we learn to flow with life instead of fighting against it. Impermanence teaches us to live fully in the present. We don't wait for the perfect moment to feel peace. We don't need to wait for the future to find happiness. Happiness is here, in this moment, right now. And it's not dependent on circumstances or emotions. It's a way of being. When we fully embrace the idea that everything is changing, we can start to let go of fear. Fear often comes from the belief that things will stay the same forever, that the painful moments will last, or that the good times will end. But when we see that everything changes, we stop fearing loss. We realize that even the tough times are just another part of the cycle of life. They will pass. Take a deep breath, in and out. Feel the air in your lungs. Notice the sensations in your body. All of this is impermanent. Every breath, every thought, every emotion, they all come and go. And in that flow, you find freedom. Life becomes lighter when we stop holding on so tightly. We can let go of what no longer serves us. We can release grudges, anger, regret, and fear. We don't need to carry them with us anymore. We can live with a sense of peace, knowing that everything, even our emotions, is temporary. So next time you find yourself overwhelmed by an emotion, whether it's joy or sorrow, remind yourself, this too shall pass. Take a moment to pause, breathe, and let go. Embrace impermanence. Allow it to set you free. The self is not what you think. Emotions and the illusion of ego. You may have noticed how easily emotions seem to pull you in different directions. One moment you're at peace, and the next you're overwhelmed by frustration, anger, or sadness. It's as if there's something deep within you that is always reacting, always responding to the world around you. You might even think that these emotions are who you are. But what if I told you they're not? What if I told you that there's more to you than your feelings, more to you than your thoughts, and that the emotional storms you experience are just that, storms passing through an empty sky? In Buddhism, we talk a lot about the self. Not the self that you think you are, but the self that is real. The one that is beneath all the emotions, beneath all the thoughts. The one that has always been there, before any reaction, before any emotion. In the West, we often think of the self as something solid, something permanent, but this is an illusion. What we call the self is really just a collection of thoughts, memories, habits, and beliefs. It's like a river, constantly flowing, constantly changing. When you begin to recognize this truth, something powerful happens. You realize that the emotions you feel are not your identity. They are simply visitors passing through your mind and body. Just like clouds that come and go in the sky, your emotions appear and disappear. But the sky, the essence of who you really are, remains unchanged. Imagine you're holding a piece of glass. This glass, like your mind, reflects the world around it. If there are fingerprints on the glass, the world you see will be smudged. But if you clean the glass, the world looks clear again. Your emotions are like the smudges on the glass. When you identify with them, when you believe they are part of who you are, they distort your view of the world. You see things through the lens of anger, fear, or sadness. But if you can step back and recognize that these emotions are just passing through, you can clear the glass. The view becomes clear again. In Buddhism, this understanding is called a non-self or an anatta. It teaches us that the self is not something fixed or permanent, but a flowing, changing process. This doesn't mean that you stop being you. It simply means that you're not bound by your emotions, thoughts, or the roles you play in life. You're more than these things. The Buddha taught that clinging to the idea of a permanent self causes suffering. The more you hold on to this idea, the more you allow your emotions to control you. Take a moment to consider how many times you've been upset or angry simply because you thought, "This is who I am. This is my personality. This is just the way I am." You might have said, "I'm an angry person," or "I'm someone who always gets sad in situations like this." These labels, these stories we tell ourselves, are part of the illusion of the self. They trap us in a narrow way of thinking, one that doesn't allow us to change. But if you begin to see that you're not your emotions, not your thoughts, not even your body, you free yourself. When the Buddha spoke of the 5 aggregates, form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness, he was pointing to how we experience life. These 5 aspects are not you. They're just processes that occur. Your body is not you. Your thoughts are not you. Your emotions are not you. And yet, so often, we identify with them. We take them personally. But if you can step back and see that they're just processes, temporary, fleeting, you'll begin to see yourself more clearly. This realization doesn't mean you stop feeling. Far from it. Emotions will still come. They will still rise and fall. But instead of being swept away by them, you'll begin to notice them as they come. You will recognize that they are not permanent, and you will have the power to let them go. This is where true emotional freedom lies. Imagine you're walking through a forest. There are many paths you can take, and each one seems to lead somewhere. But the path you take is often determined by your emotions. When you're angry, you may choose the path that leads to conflict. When you're sad, you may choose the path that leads to isolation. But if you understand that the self is not fixed, you realize that you don't have to follow these emotional paths. You can choose a different path, one that leads to peace, to understanding, to freedom. The Buddha taught that by letting go of the false idea of a permanent self, we can stop being controlled by our emotions. When you stop identifying with your feelings, they no longer have the power to shape your experience. You can face difficult situations without being consumed by them. You can feel sadness without becoming a sad person. You can feel anger without becoming an angry person. You can feel joy without becoming a happy person. But how do we practice this? How do we break free from the illusion of the self? The first step is awareness. Start by observing your thoughts and emotions without judgment. When you feel anger rising, notice it. Don't try to push it away. Don't try to make it go away. Just notice it. See it for what it is, a temporary feeling, not something that defines who you are. As you continue to practice this, you'll start to see that your emotions are not as solid as you once thought. They're just waves in the ocean of your mind, coming and going. And just like the waves, they will pass. The more you practice, the more you will realize that the true you is not your emotions, not your thoughts, not your body. The true you is the awareness that observes them. This doesn't mean you will stop feeling emotions. You will still feel joy, pain, sadness, anger, and everything in between. But when you see that you're not your emotions, they lose their power over you. You can experience them without being overwhelmed by them. You can let them come and go, like the wind blowing through the trees. In Buddhism, this understanding is liberating. It frees you from the cycle of reacting, from the cycle of suffering. When you stop identifying with your emotions, you stop feeding the cycle of attachment and aversion. You stop chasing after pleasure and running for pain. Instead, you simply observe with compassion and understanding whatever comes your way. When you begin to understand that the self is not what you think, you open yourself up to deeper kind of freedom. You realize that you're not bound by your emotions, your thoughts, or your past. You are free to be who you truly are, the awareness that sees it all, the sky that holds the clouds of emotions. This is the heart of Buddhist wisdom, to understand that you are more than your feelings, more than your thoughts. You are the space in which they arise, and in that space, you are free. This understanding doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, patience, and practice. But with each step you take towards seeing the illusion of the self, you become more peaceful, more aware, and more free. You begin to live from a place of clarity, where emotions no longer control you, and where your true self shines through. The Buddhist teachings are not about escaping from the world, but about seeing it clearly, without the distortion of attachment and ego. When you can do this, you will find that your emotions no longer have the power to pull you into suffering. Instead, they will become like clouds, appearing and disappearing in the vast, open sky of your true nature. Breaking the cycle, karma, emotions, and reactions. Imagine waking up every day with a sense of peace in your heart. You walk through the world, not reacting to every little thing that comes your way, not letting your emotions take control. Imagine living a life where your happiness doesn't depend on what others say or do, or on what happens to you. This kind of freedom is possible, but to reach it, we must understand something deeply important: the connection between karma, emotions, and reactions. Karma is often misunderstood. It's not about punishment or reward. It's not something distant or out of your control. Karma, in its simplest form, is the law of cause and effect. Every action you take, every word you speak, and every thought you hold has an impact. This impact doesn't just affect others. It shapes your own emotional world. We can think of karma like planting seeds. Every time you speak kindly, help someone in need, or think positive thoughts, you are planting seeds of peace and love. But every time you speak harshly, hold on to anger, or react impulsively, you are planting seeds of suffering. The more you act from a place of reaction rather than awareness, the stronger the roots of suffering grow. Over time, you may find that your life becomes a series of emotional responses, rather than conscious choices. This is why, in Buddhism, we focus so much on awareness. Your actions today are the seeds you plant for tomorrow. If you constantly react to life's challenges with anger, frustration, or sadness, you're setting the stage for more of the same. If you approach life with patience, kindness, and understanding, you are creating a future where peace and contentment grow. But it's not just about the actions you take outwardly. Karma is also created through your inner world. The way you think, the way you view the world, and the beliefs you hold all create karmic energy. These thoughts and beliefs influence your emotions. When you hold on to grudges, fear, or self-doubt, you are nurturing karma that makes it harder to find peace. The more you react from this place of unresolved emotions, the stronger this cycle becomes. The Buddha taught that in order to break this cycle, we must first look at how our emotions are tied to our past actions. Imagine a chain that links your emotions to past reactions, actions and words you've spoken, experiences you've had, and even unspoken thoughts and desires. Each of these links is part of the chain that keeps you stuck in the same emotional patterns. These emotional chains can be heavy, but they are not unbreakable. Through awareness, mindfulness, and understanding, you can begin to loosen these chains and free yourself from the grip of your reactions. The first step is to recognize that your emotions are not who you are. They are not fixed parts of your identity. Emotions are like waves. They rise and fall. If you look at the ocean, you can see that the waves come and go, but the water underneath remains calm and still. In the same way, your true self, the calm awareness beneath the surface, is not touched by the emotional storms you experience. When you recognize this truth, you can begin to separate yourself from the emotions that rise within you. You stop identifying with them. You stop reacting to them automatically. Instead of being carried away by anger, sadness, or fear, you can observe them with curiosity. You can ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? What is the root of this emotion? In this space of observation, you no longer let your emotions control you. But understanding karma and its connection to emotions is only part of the picture. The next step is to learn how to respond rather than react. Reaction comes from a place of unconscious habit. You've learned over time to respond to certain situations in a particular way. When someone criticizes you, you react with anger. When things don't go as planned, you react with frustration. These reactions are rooted in past karma, in the habitual patterns that have been formed over years of conditioning. Responding, on the other hand, is a conscious choice. It comes from a place of mindfulness and awareness. You pause before reacting, and in that pause, you create space for a new response. Instead of lashing out in anger, you might choose to stay calm and speak from a place of understanding. Instead of feeling anxious about the future, you might choose to focus on the present moment and find peace in what is. This shift from reaction to response is where true freedom lies. It's the key to breaking the cycle of suffering. When you can respond with awareness rather than react from habit, you begin to create new karma. You begin to plant seeds of peace, love, and understanding. And as these seeds grow, they begin to transform your emotional life. But breaking this cycle takes time and patience. You won't change overnight. There will be moments when you fall back into old habits, when your emotions get the best of you. But this is not a reason to give up. The path to emotional mastery is not a straight line. It is full of ups and downs, moments of progress and moments of struggle. What matters is that you stay committed to the process. Every time you choose to respond with awareness, you are shifting the karmic energy in your life. Every time you choose peace over reaction, you're creating a new future. Buddhism teaches that we are not trapped by our past actions. We are not slaves to our karma. Through mindfulness, awareness, and conscious choice, we can break free from the emotional cycles that keep us stuck. We can create a new life, one where our emotions no longer control us, but instead serve as guides on the path to inner peace. The process of breaking the cycle of karma and emotional reactions is a gradual one. It requires patience, self-compassion, and dedication. But as you begin to practice mindfulness and become more aware of your reactions, you will notice a shift. Your emotions will begin to lose their power over you. You will find yourself reacting less and responding more. And in this space of calm awareness, you will discover the true freedom that comes from understanding your emotions and your karma. Remember, each moment is a new opportunity to plant seeds of peace. Every action you take, every thought you have, and every emotion you experience shapes the life you will live. By understanding karma and learning to respond, rather than react, you can begin to create a life of peace and emotional freedom. The cycle of suffering can be broken. It is within your power to transform your emotions, your karma, and your life. The middle way, balance in the face of emotional extremes. Imagine you're standing in the middle of a storm, the wind howling around you, the rain pouring down in heavy sheets. It's easy to feel lost, overwhelmed, and completely out of control. That's how our emotions can sometimes feel, like a powerful storm sweeping through us, pulling us in every direction. One moment, we're elated, filled with joy. The next moment, we're drowning in despair or anger. But there's another way to live, one that doesn't require us to be tossed around by every gust of emotional wind. It's called the middle way, and it is the path of balance and moderation, a way of living that frees us from the extremes of emotional highs and lows. The Buddha taught us that the key to lasting peace lies not in avoiding emotions, but in learning to navigate them with wisdom and calm. When we are caught in extremes, we suffer. If we cling too tightly to joy, we create anxiety, fearing it will end. If we fall too deeply into sorrow, we lose hope, forgetting that emotions are fleeting. The middle way teaches us that balance comes from neither avoiding our emotions nor being completely overwhelmed by them. Instead, we can learn to observe them without attachment. Let's look at how this applies in our daily lives. Think about the last time something upset you, perhaps a disagreement with a loved one or a situation at work that made you feel frustrated. What was your response? Did you react immediately, letting your anger or hurt take over? Or did you pause, taking a moment to breathe and center yourself before responding? The middle way asks us to stop before we act, to pause and reflect on the emotions we're feeling before reacting from them. This simple practice can prevent us from saying things we don't mean or making decisions that we'll regret later. It's also important to remember that balance doesn't mean avoiding emotions entirely. Emotions are a natural part of life. The middle way doesn't ask us to suppress or deny them. Instead, it teaches us to engage with them fully, but without getting lost in them. When you feel sadness, allow yourself to feel it without judgment. When you feel joy, savor it fully, without fear that it will end. Each emotion is like a wave in the ocean, rising and falling, coming and going. If we can observe them without attachment, we begin to find peace, even in the midst of storm. One of the most challenging aspects of mastering emotions is learning not to react. We live in a world where reacting quickly is often seen as a sign of strength. We react to problems, to people, to situations. We think that by reacting quickly, we gain control. But in truth, it's the opposite. Our reactions often come from old habits, unexamined beliefs, and emotional patterns that we've carried for years, maybe even our whole lives. When we react impulsively, we are at the mercy of our conditioning, and we create more suffering. The middle way teaches us that true strength comes from responding with awareness, not reacting out of habit. This means taking a moment to pause, to breathe, and to ask ourselves, what is this emotion trying to teach me? How can I respond in a way that brings more peace to this situation? It's not about suppressing our feelings or pretending they don't exist. It's about recognizing them, understanding them, and then choosing a response that is rooted in wisdom, not in fear or anger. Another important aspect of the middle way is the recognition that extremes are often the result of desire and aversion. We want to hold on to the good things, our happiness, our comfort, our relationships, while pushing away the bad things, pain, discomfort, loss. But life doesn't work that way. Change is the only constant. Everything comes and goes, and when we hold on too tightly or push away too forcefully, we create suffering. The middle way encourages us to let go of both attachment and aversion. We can still appreciate and enjoy the good things in life, but we don't have to cling to them. We can still grieve and feel pain when we lose something, but we don't have to fall into despair. By letting go of our attachment to how things should be, we can find a sense of freedom in every moment. This doesn't mean that we become passive or indifferent. Quite the opposite. The middle way asks us to fully engage with life, but with a sense of balance. We don't have to swing from one extreme to another. We don't have to be consumed by every emotion we feel. We can choose to stay grounded, calm, and centered, even in the face of difficult emotions. Think about how different life would be if we didn't get swept away by our emotions every time something went wrong. What if, instead of reacting with anger or frustration, we took a step back and responded with understanding and compassion? What if we stopped chasing after fleeting pleasures and learned to enjoy life as it is, right here and now? This is the gift that the middle way offers us, the freedom to live with balance, to experience life fully without being controlled by our emotions. In practical terms, how can we apply the middle way to our emotional lives? It begins with mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of paying attention to our thoughts, feelings, and sensations without judgment. When we are mindful, we become aware of our emotions as they arise, instead of being carried away by them. For example, the next time you feel angry or upset, instead of reacting immediately, try to simply notice the feeling. I'm feeling angry. You might say to yourself, I wonder where this anger is coming from. By acknowledging the emotion without judgment, you create space between the feeling and your reaction. In that space, you can choose how to respond, rather than simply reacting out of habit. Another way to practice the middle way is through equanimity. Equanimity is the ability to stay calm and balanced in the face of life's challenges. It's not about suppressing emotions, but about maintaining inner peace no matter what is happening around us. To cultivate equanimity, we can practice loving kindness and compassion, both toward ourselves and others. When we approach ourselves and others with kindness, we begin to break the cycle of reaction and find peace even in difficult situations. In the end, the middle way is about finding a path between extremes, a path that leads to peace, balance, and emotional freedom. It's not always easy, and there will be times when we are pulled off course. But with practice, we can learn to navigate life's emotional storms with grace and wisdom, staying grounded no matter what comes our way. So, the next time you feel overwhelmed by emotions, remember the middle way. Take a step back, breathe, and ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to teach me? How can I respond with balance and wisdom? In doing so, you will find that you don't have to be at the mercy of your emotions. Instead, you can live with peace, no matter the storm. Compassion and detachment, two wings of emotional mastery. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a beautiful lake. The water is calm and peaceful. But the moment you step into the water, you feel the cold. It's uncomfortable at first, but then you adjust. After a while, the discomfort fades and the water feels refreshing. Now, think about emotions. Often, we dive into them without understanding. We feel joy, anger, sadness, or excitement, but we rarely pause to understand why we feel them or how to respond to them. We simply react, caught up in the waves, just like that moment when we step into the cold lake. The discomfort seems to overwhelm us, but if we take a moment to look deeper, we realize we have the ability to adjust, just like when we get used to the cold water. The key to mastering our emotions is found in two important Buddhist practices: compassion and detachment. Let's start with compassion. It's easy to think of compassion as just kindness to others, but in Buddhism, compassion begins with ourselves. How many times do you react harshly to your own emotions? How often do you judge yourself when you feel sad or angry, thinking that something's wrong with you? Compassion teaches us to be gentle with ourselves. It asks us to meet our emotions with understanding, not judgment. When you feel anger rising, instead of calling yourself weak or out of control, simply pause and say, it's okay to feel this. I'm human. Compassion creates a space of acceptance for whatever emotions arise, allowing them to come and go without attaching guilt or shame. This gentle approach doesn't just change how we treat ourselves, it changes how we treat others as well. When you practice compassion towards yourself, you naturally start extending that same kindness to those around you. Imagine you're angry with someone, perhaps even deeply hurt by something they've said. Compassion doesn't ask you to ignore your feelings or pretend that everything is okay. Instead, it invites you to look beyond the immediate reaction and understand the person in front of you. What if, instead of responding in anger, you took a deep breath and thought, maybe they're hurting too. Maybe they said that out of their own pain. In that moment, your anger doesn't vanish, but you begin to shift your focus. Compassion teaches you to respond to others with understanding rather than retaliation. But how does compassion relate to detachment? At first, they might seem like opposing ideas. Compassion invites connection, while detachment suggests distance. But in Buddhism, there are two sides of the same coin. Detachment doesn't mean that you don't care or that you shut yourself off from others. It means you stop clinging to emotions, whether they're your own or someone else's. You learn not to let your feelings dictate your actions. Detachment frees you from the need to control situations or people. It's not about withdrawing from life, but rather engaging with life in a way that doesn't tie your happiness to external events. Imagine this. You're at a family gathering and someone makes a comment that irritates you. In the past, you might have reacted immediately, letting the frustration build inside. But with the practice of detachment, you don't need to be controlled by that feeling. Instead, you notice it. You say to yourself, I feel upset right now, but I don't need to act on it. You still feel the emotion, but it doesn't take over. You don't have to engage with the anger. You don't have to defend yourself. You simply let the emotion be. Detachment teaches you that you are not your feelings. You can observe them without becoming them. Now let's think about how these two practices work together. Compassion and detachment balance each other perfectly. Compassion gives you the warmth and understanding to face your emotions, while detachment gives you the strength to not let those emotions control you. Together, they form a powerful shield against the constant ebb and flow of daily life. Compassion allows you to feel deeply and empathize with others, but detachment keeps you from becoming overwhelmed by those feelings. It helps you respond instead of react. This combination of compassion and detachment also protects you from emotional exhaustion. Have you ever been in a relationship or situation where you give, and give, but never feel like you're getting anything back? Compassion is the heart of generosity. It encourages you to give to others, to help, to share, to love. But if you're not practicing detachment, that constant giving can leave you feeling drained. Detachment helps you recognize when it's time to step back and recharge. You give because you want to, not because you feel like you have to. Detachment allows you to create healthy boundaries in relationships so that you don't lose yourself in caring for others. Sometimes, it's easy to misunderstand detachment. People often think of it as coldness or indifference, but that's not the Buddhist view at all. Detachment is not about withdrawing from the world or becoming numb. It's about seeing life clearly without getting lost in it. It's about being fully engaged without becoming consumed. Detachment teaches you that it's possible to love deeply, to care deeply, and yet remain free from suffering. You can give everything without losing yourself. You can experience joy without clinging to it. You can experience pain without being destroyed by it. Consider this: a beautiful flower blooms in a garden. You admire it, enjoy its beauty, and then, as the days pass, the flower wilts and fades. Detachment teaches you to enjoy the flower without trying to hold on to it. You know that it won't last forever, and that's okay. You don't need to control its life cycle. In the same way, you can appreciate the beauty of life, its moments of joy, peace, and connection, without trying to keep them forever. You allow life to flow naturally, without interference. When we begin to live with both compassion and detachment, we stop chasing after happiness or trying to avoid pain. We accept life as it is. This doesn't mean we stop caring or stop feeling. In fact, we may feel more deeply than ever before, but we're no longer controlled by those feelings. Instead of grasping at moments of joy, we experience them fully, knowing that they will pass. Instead of running from discomfort, We accept it, knowing that it too will pass. This is the essence of emotional mastery in Buddhism. It's not about denying emotions or suppressing them. It's about seeing them clearly, understanding them, and responding with wisdom. Compassion allows us to open our hearts to ourselves and others, while detachment gives us the freedom to not be swept away by our emotions. Together, they help us live with greater peace, greater clarity, and greater freedom. By practicing both compassion and detachment, you start to see that your emotions are not obstacles to overcome, but tools for understanding. They show you where you need to grow, where you're still attached, where you're still holding on. With compassion, you can meet those places with kindness. With detachment, you can release them and find your peace. So, next time you face an emotional challenge, remember, compassion and detachment are your two wings. They will help you rise above the storm and find calm in the chaos. By cultivating these practices, you will gradually master your emotions and experience a deeper, more peaceful life. The Four Noble Truths in your emotional life. Sit quietly now, breathe. Let us walk slowly through the doorway of understanding. No need to rush. In the teachings of the Buddha, there is a path that leads us out of suffering. It is not a path outside you. It is within you. And this path begins with seeing clearly. Your emotions are not the problem. Anger is not your enemy. Sadness is not your weakness. Even fear is not here to harm you. What hurts us most is not the emotion itself, but how we relate to it. We fight it. We cling to it. We judge it. We run from it. In that struggle, we suffer. The Buddha's first teaching after his awakening was very simple. He said, "There is suffering. Life brings pain, not because you are weak, not because you failed, but because to live is to feel. And feelings shift like wind. One moment joy, the next moment grief. This is natural, but we do not like this. We want things to stay. We want comfort to last. We want people to always be kind. We want life to go our way. And when it doesn't, we feel pain." This is the second truth. Suffering has a cause. It is craving, wanting, expecting, not just of others, but also of yourself. Have you noticed how you scold yourself for feeling low? Or how you keep wishing someone had treated you better? That is the craving mind, wanting reality to be different than it is. That craving tightens your chest. It fuels the storm inside. Now the third truth is like sunlight after a long rain. The Buddha says suffering can end. Yes, it is possible. You're not trapped. You're not doomed to repeat the same pain again and again. But this freedom doesn't come by escaping emotions. It comes by seeing them clearly, without fear. When you watch a thought without feeding it, it loses power. When you feel sadness without calling it bad, it softens. When you stop running from loneliness and sit with it, something surprising happens. It begins to teach you. The fourth truth is the way out. It is the path, the Noble Eightfold Path. But for now, understand this. It is not about being perfect. It is not about never feeling upset again. It is about learning to meet your emotions with wisdom, with kindness, with stillness. Let me give you a simple image. Imagine a calm lake. When the wind blows, the surface shakes. Waves rise. But beneath that, the water is still. Your emotions are the waves. But you're the lake. You're not just the surface. You're the depth too. When anger rises, don't push it away. But also, don't act from it right away. Sit with it. Feel it. Ask it what it needs. Ask it what wound it is pointing to. In that pause, wisdom is born. That is the heart of the path. Many people think Buddhism is cold, emotionless. That is not true. A Zen master feels deeply, but he is not thrown around by emotions. He bows to them. He listens, but he does not become them. That is freedom. When you feel jealousy, you do not need to shout or hide. You can say softly to yourself, "Jealousy is here." That simple recognition is powerful. You stop being caught in the story. You start seeing clearly. This is what the Buddha offered, a new way to live, a way to suffer less, a way to feel without drowning, a A way to see emotions as teachers, not enemies. Even grief, which feels so heavy, can become light when you hold it with care. It is like a guest that has come to your home. You don't have to invite it to stay forever, but you also don't need to slam the door in its face. Sit with it, offer it tea, listen. It will leave when the time is right. So many people above the age of 45 come to Zen teachings because they are tired of emotional battles, tired of being hurt by words, tired of regrets, tired of holding pain inside. This teaching is for you. You're not too old to change. You're not too late to begin. If you can breathe, you can awaken. If you can pause, you can learn. If you can listen to your heart, you can be free. You may ask, but how long will it take? The Zen master smiles and says, not long, just the next breath. Because freedom is always found now, not tomorrow, not next year, just now. Start by noticing. When a strong feeling comes, place a hand on your heart. Say, I see you. That is the beginning. The more you do this, the softer your heart becomes, the less afraid you are, and the more space you find inside. The Four Noble Truths are not ideas. They are living truths. You can see them in your own life. Look at the last time you were hurt. Was there a craving behind it? Was there an expectation? Did you fight reality? That is the second truth. Did you find peace after accepting it? That is the third. This is not religion. This is human wisdom. The Buddha was not a god. He was a man, just like you. But he saw it deeply. And because he saw, he became free. You too can see. You too can be free. Your emotions do not need to rule you. They are not stronger than your awareness. With gentle practice, you can hold even the most painful emotions like a mother holds a crying child. With love, with patience, with care. Remember this, pain is not the end. Every tear can water the seed of awakening. Even sorrow has a purpose. It opens your heart. It humbles your pride. It teaches you to let go. And when you let go, not of life, but of your grip on how life should be, something opens. Peace begins to return, like a bird that lands softly on your shoulder when you least expect it. So let us keep walking. Let the teachings of the Buddha be a quiet lantern in your hand. Not heavy, not loud, just enough light to see the next step. We will go deeper. But for now, rest in this knowing. Emotions come and go, but your true nature is vast, calm, and free. Like the sky holding every kind of weather without fear. And that, dear one, is the beginning of emotional peace. Emotional liberation. Living free with the wisdom of Buddhism. The journey is complete. You've walked through every step, every lesson, and every moment that the Buddha offered to those seeking peace. By now, you must be wondering, what does it truly feel like to be free from the grip of your emotions? How does it feel to stand still in a storm, unmoved by the wind or the rain? Imagine, for a moment, waking up each day without the weight of unnecessary fear, anger, or anxiety. Picture yourself walking through life with a quiet mind, a heart that is open and full, yet not attached. You see the world around you, the noise, the chaos, the challenges, but you do not get swept up in them. You remain calm, centered, and unshaken. This is the freedom that Buddhism promises. It's not about denying or suppressing your emotions. It's about understanding them, seeing them clearly, and letting them go when they no longer serve you. Emotions, like waves, come and go. They rise and they fall. When you stop fighting them, you realize that you don't have to drown in them. You can ride them calmly, peacefully, without losing yourself in the storm. At the heart of all Buddhist teachings is the idea of non-attachment. And what does that mean for your emotions? It means that your feelings do not define you. You're not your anger, your sadness, your joy, or your fear. You are the one who experiences them. You're the space in which they arise and pass away. The moment you realize this, you begin to free yourself from the endless cycle of emotional ups and downs. But non-attachment does not mean indifference. Far from it. It means loving fully, feeling deeply, but but knowing that your happiness does not depend on anything outside of you. You learn to find joy in the present moment, rather than relying on the past or the future to determine your emotional state. You stop waiting for others to change, for situations to improve, or for conditions to be perfect before you can feel peaceful. You realize that peace is not something you find, it is something you choose. In the teachings of Buddhism, we find that the path to emotional freedom is through compassion and mindfulness. Compassion is not just about being kind to others. It starts with being kind to yourself. When you stop being so harsh on yourself for feeling what you feel, when you stop judging yourself for your reactions, you create space for true healing. Compassion means accepting yourself with all your flaws, all your mistakes, and all your struggles. It means recognizing that, just like everyone else, you're doing the best you can with what you know. Mindfulness is the practice of being present in each moment, without judgment. It's the ability to observe your emotions as they arise, without getting caught up in them. When you're mindful, you can see the emotion for what it is, a temporary state, a passing cloud. You don't need to grab onto it or push it away. You simply observe it with kindness, and then let it pass. Buddhism also teaches us to live with intention. When you understand the impermanence of everything, you no longer waste time clinging to things that don't matter. You begin to focus on what truly brings you peace, what truly nourishes your heart. You begin to make choices that align with your values, rather than reacting out of habit or fear. Every action becomes deliberate, every word thoughtful, every thought more mindful. You live with purpose, not by accident. This doesn't mean that challenges or difficult emotions will never come your way again. Life will always have its ups and downs. But when you master your emotions, you learn to dance with the rhythm of life rather than fighting against it. You learn that you can experience pain without becoming consumed by it. You can feel frustration without allowing it to control your actions. You can experience joy without clinging to it. And so, the Buddha's teachings offer a pathway to freedom. Freedom from the chains of anger, fear, and regret. Freedom to live fully, without being a prisoner of your own emotions. When you begin to understand the impermanence of all things, when you begin to see the true nature of your emotions, you realize that you are not bound by them. You are free to choose your response, to choose your peace. This freedom doesn't come all at once. It's a gradual process. It takes time, patience, and practice. But with every moment of awareness, with every practice of mindfulness, you move closer to the emotional liberation that Buddhism promises. Slowly, your heart becomes lighter, your mind becomes clearer, and your spirit becomes more peaceful. By now, you have learned the fundamental truths of Buddhism. You have learned to observe your emotions without judgment. You have learned to detach from the stories your mind tells you. You have learned to be present in each moment, to find peace in the now. And as you continue on this journey, you will discover that emotional freedom is not something you achieve once and for all. It is something you cultivate every day. Remember, the path to emotional liberation is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole. It's about accepting yourself fully and allowing yourself to grow, to change, to heal. It's about realizing that no emotion, no matter how intense, can ever take away your true peace. So, as you move forward in your life, carry these teachings with you. Use them as tools to navigate the storms of your emotions. When you feel overwhelmed, pause. Breathe. Observe. Let go. Know that you have the power to master your emotions. Know that you have the wisdom to live with peace, no matter what life throws your way. And most importantly, remember that the practice never ends. The more you practice, the more you become. You are on a journey that lasts a lifetime, but with each step, you move closer to the freedom you seek. Thank you for joining me on this path. I hope you continue to walk it with courage, with mindfulness, and with love. May you find the peace that lies beyond all emotions. May you live freely as the Buddha taught. and may your heart always be filled with compassion. This is the true meaning of emotional liberation.